The confirmation didn't arrive the way people expected. No breaking news banner, no dramatic announcement, no staged smiles meant for cameras. It arrived quietly with certainty, and that quiet certainty disturbed the world more than noise ever could. Because when two men like Elon Musk and Fazza confirm something so deeply personal, the question is never what happened. The real question is why now? The world rushed to label it, to define it, to reduce it to headlines and reactions. But what they missed, what they always miss, is that this wasn't about romance. It was about alignment. For years, people tried to understand Elon as a mind detached from emotion, a builder obsessed with the future, a man married to ideas, not people. And Fazza, he was framed as legacy, grace, poetry wrapped in leadership, two entirely different archetypes. So, when the confirmation surfaced, confusion spread faster than clarity. How, why, what does this mean? But the truth was simpler and far more unsettling. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. It was the result of years of silence, observation, and mutual recognition. They didn't fall into this. They arrived at it. People assume marriage is about emotion first, but for those who carry responsibility at scale, marriage is about structure, about trust that survives pressure, about alignment that doesn't fracture under scrutiny, about choosing someone who understands the cost of vision. Elon didn't need admiration. He had plenty of that. What he needed was someone who wouldn't flinch when the world turned hostile. Fazza didn't need power. He was born into it. What he needed was someone who understood isolation without resenting it. That's where they met, not in romance, in understanding. Their conversations weren't about feelings, they were about consequence. What happens when the world misunderstands you for decades? What happens when legacy becomes heavier than desire? What happens when silence is safer than explanation? They spoke in pauses, in glances, in restraint, the kind of communication that doesn't perform. People close to them noticed it long before the confirmation. How Elon listened differently, how Fazza waited without impatience, how neither tried to impress the other. There was no chase, because this wasn't attraction, it was recognition. Two people who had already paid the price of being ahead of their time. The confirmation didn't feel like a beginning, it felt like a checkpoint, a moment where secrecy was no longer necessary, because once alignment is complete, hiding it becomes pointless. The world reacted loudly. Some celebrated, some mocked, some demanded explanations they were never entitled to, but Elon and Fazza didn't respond. They never do. Power doesn't argue with noise. It outlasts. This marriage wasn't about rewriting norms. It was about refusing to perform for them. It was about choosing partnership over perception, because when your life operates at scale, love is not about intensity, it's about stability under pressure. Fazza understood Elon's restlessness. Elon understood Fazza's restraint. Neither tried to change the other. They built around each other instead. That's the kind of marriage most people never experience, because it requires knowing yourself before choosing someone else. The confirmation didn't change who they were, it clarified it. Elon didn't soften, Fazza didn't disappear. They became sharper, more grounded, more deliberate, because when two aligned minds choose commitment, distraction loses power. And here's what truly unsettled people: there was no need for validation, no speeches about love, no explanations about identity, no defense, just confirmation, as if to say, this is done. Catch up if you want. And that's the part most people couldn't handle, because we live in a world addicted to justification, but some decisions are made beyond debate. This marriage wasn't asking for approval, it was declaring completion of trust, of alignment, of readiness. History will try to frame this as controversial, but history always misunderstands the present. What this really was two individuals who understood the cost of loneliness, deciding not to pay it alone anymore. Not romantically, not dramatically, strategically, intentionally, quietly. And the world, the world will keep talking. But long after the noise fades, this decision will still be standing, because marriages built on spectacle collapse. Marriages built on understanding endure. And that's what was confirmed after the confirmation. What surprised people most wasn't outrage or celebration, it was the silence. Not the empty kind, the disciplined kind, the kind that happens when a decision is already complete and explanations would only cheapen it. People kept asking when it began, as if beginnings are always visible. But some alignments don't begin. They recognize this wasn't a story of discovery, it was a story of acknowledgement behind closed doors. There were no speeches about love, no dramatic promises, no poetic declarations meant to be remembered. There were only questions that matter when everything else is noise. Can you stand next to me when the world misunderstands me? Can you stay steady when progress looks like chaos? Can you protect what we build without needing to be seen doing it? That's how this partnership formed, not through emotion first, but through capacity. Elon had spent years living inside futures no one could yet imagine. That kind of vision isolates you. People admire it from a distance, but rarely want to live inside its consequences. Fazza understood that isolation intimately. Legacy does the same thing. When your life is larger than yourself, every personal choice becomes public property. Every silence becomes speculation. So when they chose each other, it wasn't an escape from responsibility. It was a doubling down on it. What the world didn't see were the long pauses between conversations, the mutual respect for solitude, the absence of urgency. Nothing was rushed because nothing needed to be proven. They didn't merge identities, they protected them. That's the part people find hardest to understand. Most relationships survive on constant reassurance. This one survived on trust. Without performance, Elon didn't need to be softened. Fazza didn't need to be elevated. They met as they were, and that equality is rare. After the confirmation, reactions became predictable. Some tried to frame it as symbolism, others as rebellion, others as spectacle, but the truth was far less dramatic and far more powerful. This marriage wasn't designed to be understood by the public. It was designed to function under pressure. They didn't talk about forever. They talked about sustainability. How do two people remain intact when everything around them demands access. How do you share a life without turning it into content? How do you love without letting the world define the terms? The answer was simple but not easy. Privacy, restraint, boundaries that don't ask permission. People mistook the lack of visibility for secrecy, but secrecy hides fear. This was different. This was selective openness, a choice to reveal only what strengthens and protect everything else. What changed most after the confirmation wasn't how they moved, but how others moved around them. Noise increased, speculation intensified, and still nothing leaked. No reactions, no clarifications. Because once you stop explaining your life, you regain control of it. That's the lesson most people never learn. They think visibility equals power, but power is the ability to remain unmoved while everyone else reacts. This wasn't a love story meant to be consumed. It was a partnership meant to endure. And endurance doesn't need witnesses. History may argue about this moment, debate it, reframe it, but history always arrives late. The truth already exists quietly where it doesn't need agreement to survive. This wasn't about breaking norms. It wasn't about proving anything. It was about two individuals who understood that the greatest luxury in a loud world is choosing someone who respects silence, and that more than any headline is what was truly confirmed. What came after confirmation was not celebration, it was recalibration. Because when a decision is final, life doesn't stop, it reorganizes itself around people expected change in posture, tone, visibility. They waited for softness, symbolism, statements. None came. Instead, something subtler happened. They became harder to access, not emotionally, strategically. The marriage didn't open doors, it closed unnecessary ones. That's the part no one anticipates. Most people think partnership makes you more available. In reality, the right partnership makes you more selective. Elon didn't slow down his thinking, he sharpened it. Fazza didn't step forward into visibility, he stepped back into control. They understood something instinctively. When the world believes it knows you, stops listening. So they let the noise peak and then starve. No reactions, no corrections, no emotional counter narratives, just motion. Work continued, decisions accelerated, long-term trajectories quietly locked in. That's when the tone shifted, because speculation feeds on response, and when response disappears, speculation turns inward. People started questioning their own certainty. Was this real? Did it matter? Why did it feel unsettling? Because it challenged a deeply held illusion that power needs validation. This partnership did not ask to be understood,